I'm sure that had I heard the church's teaching on chastity at an early age, I would have avoided a lot of heartache and grief. But then again, maybe I did hear it. Was I not paying attention, or was the message not clear? Does it really matter? Isn't it the church's responsibility to make chastity relevant? But before we jump into this topic, let's begin with a definition.
Chastity means the successful integration of sexuality within the person, and thus the inner unity of man in his bodily and spiritual being. Sexuality, in which man's belonging to the bodily and biological world is expressed, becomes personal and truly human when it is integrated into the relationship of one person to another in complete and lifelong mutual gift of a man and a woman. The virtue of chastity, therefore, involves the integrity of the person and the integrality of the gift.
Joining me now is someone who knows this definition very well. Chris Stefanick has spent the last 14 years of his life in youth ministry and the last 7 traveling around the world speaking to young audiences about faith and chastity. And so it's great to have you here on the show, Chris. Welcome.
Great to be here. Honored to be here.
So this definition,
Yeah.
just a lot of big words: successful integration, sexuality, the person, inner unity, bodily, spiritual being.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I think it really drives home the point that chastity isn't about crushing your sexuality.
Okay.
That it's about owning it and guiding that whole part of you in the right direction.
Does it have to do with sexuality specifically?
Yeah, and that's a broader thing than just sex specifically. You know,
Okay.
it's about the part of us that's really made in the image of God, especially, right? Because we're all made in the image of God in regard to our fundamental call to love. I mean, that's how you sum up holiness, right? Sexuality is really a part of that call to love, to give yourself in love to another human being.
Is it fair to say chastity is just being who you really are? And I thought that was a really, maybe too simple, but
Yeah.
a really good definition. Would you disagree?
I agree. It's an essential part of being who we really are. You know, the lie of the world is that when you just give in to your lower desires, do whatever the heck you want, that's how you're really accomplishing, becoming who you really are. Then you're really free.
Okay.
One time when John Paul II was greeted at the airport by Ronald Reagan, Ronald Reagan said, "Welcome to the land of the free." And John Paul II said, "Free, yes, but free for what?"
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Chastity is a virtue that sets us free to love, and especially in regards to our sexuality, to put that at the service of love.
Okay, and we can talk about that, I think, a little bit later, but I want to look at this word integrate. So what does that mean in terms of integrating my sexuality with the person? I don't quite get
Yeah,
that.
first part of that would be self-mastery.
Okay.
And that's an essential piece of that, right? But that's not the whole picture.
Self-control, self-mastery.
That temperance, it's just being able to say no, having that power to say no.
Okay.
One way I boil this down for young men especially, if they hear chastity as, destroy your sexuality, they're going to despair. Guys have 20 times more testosterone in their body than girls.
Yes.
20 times more. And when they're 8 weeks along in mama's belly, there's a surge of testosterone that kills cells in the communication center and enlarges cells in the sex center of the brain. Okay,
So what are you saying?
That might explain a couple things about your husband, but it's not his fault. All right. But if you tell guys it's just about not having testosterone, again, they despair. I had a kid come up to me after my talk the other day, and he said, "Chris, what if I'm just a sicko? I mean, I'm just always like,
Because you can't.
raring to
That's
go."
all I think about.
Yeah.
So when you say self-mastery, you don't mean shut off.
It doesn't. It's not shutting
flow.
off. It's about guiding in the right direction. I'm like, listen, little brother, you're not a sicko. You're not demented. You're not twisted. God is not looking down and saying that I should have washed that away in the flood. It's not about killing that part of you, but guiding it. Just like a team of horses, right? You guide it the right direction, and it's put at the service of love. It's put at the service of God. If you don't, it'll pull you off a cliff.
So that's self-mastery, or is that integration, or both?
I guess it'd be a little bit of both. Yeah.
Both. Okay,
Yeah.
so integrating it means guiding it.
Because self-mastery is putting the bit in the mouth of the horse, right?
Right. So that we can be who we are
Who
being
we really
created
are.
to be
Who we really are. Yeah.
as sexual beings.
Yeah.
That means being in the image of God.
Yeah, and sexuality, we express love with our physicality
Okay.
when it comes to, obviously, marital love and the marital embrace. and really just that living out that call physically to show love in so many ways.
Is it specific to, because again, this is part of that definition, that it has to do with relationships with persons, not just male-female,
Yep.
but specifically with male-female relationships?
Yeah.
Because of our call to marriage?
Yeah,
Because we all have that sort of...
even for the celibacy isn't a call to not be a sexual being
Yeah,
anymore,
I know.
right? Because it would be impossible. So they remain that sexual human being, and yet they're just putting that testosterone for the guys, right?
Right.
Or girls have it too.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they're putting that at the service of the church and the service of the opposite sex.
Okay.
Not as desexualized humans, but as
Right.
celibate.
So here's another part that I think people are confused about. Chastity doesn't mean celibacy.
No, chastity is something you live out. It's a lifelong virtue.
So I can be married
Yep.
in a chaste marriage.
Yeah, and we have to be, right?
Yes.
Chastity is about following the plan of God with our sexuality throughout life.
No matter what state in life.
Exactly. So for a married person, yeah, there's ways to do that with natural family planning and all that stuff, ways to live out chastity according to the plan of God. When I'm talking to kids about chastity, I'm not really an abstinent speaker per se, because abstinence is really just about saying no.
Well, for them it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, chastity for them, it has to include abstinence,
Yes,
amen?
yes.
But there are people who are just focused solely on abstinence, and it's about just reasons to say no. Chastity is more of a holistic vision of what you're saying yes to. That you're saying yes to the plan of God and to authentic love.
Okay,
and
so then
and to the whole
chastity is
picture.
not about saying no. It's about
That's a piece
saying,
of it, right? It's a necessary piece of it
No, but I like
yeah.
what you normally do with your message, that it's about saying yes
to something greater.
to
Yeah.
something greater, and that's why you talk about imitations, or I know some people talk about...
No imitations. Yeah, that's what I call my chastity talk. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Really, it's just not about saying no to premarital sex, no to a disease, no to whatever. You'll get pregnant and go to hell, and all the above, right?
Right.
And I remember when I was a kid, we had Nancy Reagan's "Just Say No" campaign to drugs.
Yeah.
It didn't work for anybody. Avoid doesn't motivate us. We have to be saying yes to something, and chastity is a mighty yes, because it appeals to something that we're made for.
Yeah.
I tell kids when I start talking to them, I say, I'm going to invite you to something real, to authentic love, to your dignity. This is about a yes to love, a yes to their dignity, a yes to their happiness, a yes to God.
Yeah.
And I tell them straight out that, the plan of God is not just written in your body, but in your heart when it comes to your sexuality. So what I said here now is already going to echo a voice in your heart, because you're made for something noble and authentic in this area.
Because that's intrinsic in everybody, that we know that we're called to something better.
That's it, yeah.
I love the image.
Especially with love.
Yeah, I love the image of being in the back alley eating out of the dumpster when all we have to do is just go into the banquet. And we have this beautiful banquet. I think it must be Christopher West that talks about this. That there's this beautiful banquet that we're all invited to, and we're so hungry and starving that we're just out in the back eating out of the dumpster.
Mm-hmm. And we think we're getting our full. And society's getting nothing but junk food. And it's amazing when kids realize, whoa, chastity's about yes to all these things I was made for, and to my dignity, and to love. Suddenly their hunger is directed in the right direction, in the right place.
Integrated, I guess.
Integrated.
That's the word.
That's it.
So
yeah.
where does purity fall into that? Can you say that if purity and chastity, they're not the same thing?
I kind of equate them.
You do?
Yeah. But I think purity, we read the Catechism, we talk about the Beatitudes and blessed are the pure in heart. That is purity of intention, I think it's broader than chastity, which has to do a little more with our sexuality in general.
Okay.
But the pure in heart will be chaste. And chastity is necessary to be one of the pure in heart.
And you're called to be pure in marriage or...
And in our business dealings.
Yeah. Do you use the term purity when you're talking to the kids about chastity?
I often do. Because they know, they equate purity with...
Purity.
Sexual purity and chastity.
Modesty, I guess that's all it. So we're going to get into this a little more in the second part, but when we were young, you and I presume we're about the same age, so I mean, this message, I either never heard it, like I said, or I missed it.
Yeah.
It was just so what was wrong with the way that it was being presented to me?
Frankly, I don't think we did hear it as much as kids are hearing it now. And not in the context of just saying yes to authentic love.
No, absolutely. I never heard that.
There's been a revolution in this area, and I'm really encouraged by what I call a new sexual revolution. Since '91, sexual activity rates have been falling among teens, but nearly 2 times faster among guys in recent years. More than half of teens are not having sex in high school.
Really?
I just gave a talk in Georgia, and there was a 1,100 person capacity in the church, and they were breaking fire codes, and kids gave a standing ovation after hearing a chastity message. And this is what I'm seeing again and again, where kids are clapping when they're hearing this message. So I think we've lived in the era long enough where they've seen, wait, this is not real freedom. There's something wrong, and
So they sense it.
They
know
know
it.
deep in their spirit something wrong, and when they hear the truth, it's like boom, that's
so nobody's told them the truth. Okay, and we're going to get into that. We got to stop right now for a little break, but we're going to come right back and we're going to continue. But in particular, I want to hear the positives. Why is the message working now when it wasn't working when we were young?
Yeah.
So don't go anywhere.
Let us know your perspective. Email us at perspectives@saltandlighttv.org or reach us by mail, Perspectives at Salt and Light Television, 114 Richmond Street East, Toronto, Ontario, M5C 1P1, or call us toll-free at 1-888-302-7181. Let your perspective be heard.
I'm currently in Manila in the beautiful Philippines, which are under constant, well-funded pressure from the West to promote condoms. Listen, the Philippines doesn't need our condoms. In 1984, AIDS broke out in the Philippines and in Thailand at the same time. The response of the Philippines was to promote abstinence. The response of Thailand was to promote condoms. 20 years later, they did a study of each country to see how they were doing in the fight against AIDS. The AIDS rate in the Thailand is 50 times higher than it is in the Philippines. Abstinence works. Condoms don't. Why is that? Because they only reduce the risk of getting AIDS by about 85%. If you reduce the risk this much and increase the risk takers that much, that's what you get. You run into the situation that we're in the United States, where every single day, over 43,000 people get a sexually transmitted disease. Look, the U.S. is crowded with condoms, and it's not working. It's not working. It's numbers. It's not a religious dogma that's saying it's not working. It's simple math that shows us it's not working. A couple years ago, Pope Benedict XVI came out and said that condoms are not solving the AIDS crisis in Africa. There was an international outcry. How could he put his dogmas before human lives? Well, you look at the facts, it shows he was right. They tracked in 3 countries, Cameroon, Botswana, Kenya, to see how condoms are doing in stemming the AIDS crisis in those countries. They showed that condom distribution rose alongside HIV/AIDS till they both leveled out. Guys, it's not Pope Benedict XVI who is putting his dogmas before human lives. It's the latex missionaries. They won't see the facts. The facts are that 85% is not enough of a risk reduction. If I had a skydiving company and the parachutes opened 85% of the time, would you go skydiving with me? And not just for AIDS. It only reduces the risk reduction by 50% against a whole slew of other STDs. And when it comes to pregnancy, Planned Parenthood's Research Council had to recently admit the leading cause of unplanned teen pregnancies is not a failure to use contraception, it's a failure of contraception to work. Western world, get a clue. Don't be pushing what you got on the Philippines. Start looking to them and taking a lesson.
Okay, welcome back. We're talking chastity with Chris Stefanick. So not to kind of keep harping on the things that went wrong, but again, what are the things that we should not be doing if we want to teach young people about chastity?
Yeah, definitely focus on the just say yes. Just say yes to authentic love. That's everything. That's the key right there. Hugh Hefner recently came out with a little testimonial where he said that there was no love, no affection, no hugging, kissing in his family growing up, but he got a very clear message to not have sex.
Yeah, no kidding. Look at where he ended up.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, his mom apologized to him for that later in his life, and he said, "Mom, because of what you weren't able to give me, it set me in a course that changed my life and the world." When people have truth with no love, it's a noisy gong and a clanging cymbal,
Yes.
you know. And we could say this is the most beautiful gong and cymbal. It's worth millions of dollars. Okay, Mom, get the cymbal out of my face. I don't care that it's the best one in the world and that it's true. You know, if it's presented as beautiful, suddenly they're attracted to what's true through that beauty.
Because we are innately attracted to perfect beauty, absolute truth, unconditional love.
That's it.
Can I just go back to Hugh Hefner?
Yeah, no, please.
Because again, so this living out chastity, this integration of who we are. See, I don't even know what the definition is, but in terms of that affection that parents would show their children,
Yeah.
That's all part of chastity.
That's all part of it. It's just a parent looking in the eyes of their kid and saying, I love you. I mean, that's all part of them getting that notion of what love is and of their dignity.
What authentic love is, that it's
That's
not
it.
just
Yeah.
sexual love, that it's not separate, that
Yeah.
it can be integrated.
That's it. There was one study that showed that the farther a kid feels from their dad, the more likely they are to have premarital sex.
Yes.
Closer they feel, the less likely they are. And it did like a couple of groupings, not very close, somewhat, and closer they felt.
Right.
The more they realized their dignity, that they weren't looking for that love in somebody
Absolutely.
else's
And they say
arms.
that about girls too. They're not close to their dads. They're going to look for that male affection somewhere else.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So they start learning that message of chastity by learning what they're worth.
Right.
By the way their parents love them.
Okay.
And I'm trying to teach that to my kids by not giving them crazy face.
Yeah.
You stab your
That's
brother
it.
with a pencil again? Okay, I confess crazy face, but I try, Yeah.
Yeah.
Please don't stab your brother with a pencil
Surely
again.
there's a better way. Okay, so if that doesn't work, so then what does work?
No, and I don't want to give the impression that I don't talk about things to say no to. We got to spell out to kids that premarital sex doubles your chance of divorce. These are all statistical facts. That STDs are still a massive problem, all right? And
Right.
that condoms protect people 85% of the time
safe
against
sex
AIDS.
is not safe. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
50%
So it's a
against
myth.
most other diseases. And they have the impression that they're safe. Yeah, right. It's like, okay, let's go skydiving, and it'll open 85% of the time.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, whatever.
Exactly.
So we got to spell that out. I spell out to them how things like there was a study done of 14,000 kids, found that people earn 16% less throughout the course of their lives if they're having sex in high school. Because they're not engaged in math like they should be. There's girls are 3 times more likely to be depressed in high school. Guys 2 times more likely. So there's all sorts of stuff I point out to them. So it's important for people who love teens to point those pitfalls out.
That's part of showing them the truth.
Exactly.
Okay.
No, because kids who think with their emotions about ethical issues, right? They might say, well, it feels loving, okay?
Yeah.
First of all, if I made ethical decisions with my emotions, I might have killed someone who cut me off on the freeway today, right?
Yeah,
if I followed
exactly.
my heart, okay,
Yeah.
don't do that. Follow your head.
Hey, if I followed my heart, I wouldn't have gotten here because my heart told me to drive in the other direction.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
To give them a definition of the love they're looking for. To love someone is to do what's good for them, right? What is love, all right?
Yeah.
Doing what's good for somebody.
Yeah.
And when we give them that definition, it puts all those dangers and all those reasons to say no in the proper context. The overarching context is saying yes to love. And the reason premarital sex isn't loving is that it puts someone's happiness on the line in almost every way imaginable.
Yeah.
Last year, a kid emailed me from Canada after doing the talk. He said, Chris, you don't understand. I'm in tears when I make love to my girlfriend. And so I emailed him back. I'm like, first of all, I'm really sorry to hear that because there's a problem there. But secondly, you think your tears justify all the ways you're putting her happiness on the line?
Yeah,
And to walk this kid through that process of helping him see that even if you feel like it's loving, it's not.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, someone came to my door, Chris, I make love to your daughter, but I'm in tears when I do. I'd be like, okay, let's cry together, son. Okay. And if someone can't come in front of a girl's dad and say what he's doing, right? Yeah. Don't call it love. So it's crucial to unmask that lie that they're telling themselves. That if you're putting someone's happiness on the line in all those ways, it's not love.
Now, do you see that the biggest challenge you have is that kids are just not getting this at home?
That message of authentic love?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest challenges is parents still are afraid to talk about it.
But whether they're talking about it, I mean, yes, whether they're not even living it because the parents are our generation. The value is not being caught because they don't see it at home.
That's right. There's a couple things going on. On one hand, if a parent failed at this, sometimes they feel unworthy to tell their kid to do better than them.
Right.
Or they apply that thinking to bankruptcy.
Yes.
Right? And your kid's opening 5 credit cards and you went bankrupt, you're not going to say, of course you're going to say something.
Yeah.
And those parents are missing the point of Christianity. I mean, if you're one of those parents at home, I mean, the Bible, most of the New Testament was written by St. Paul. I think God was inserting a lesson there for us. He used to try to track down Christians to have them killed. So that's one reason parents don't talk. Another reason they don't talk about it is it's awkward. I mean, I told my son about the birds and the bees the other day, and he looked at me and he goes,
He's 18?
no, yeah, he's 20. No, he goes, you and mom 6 times? So I was like, okay, awkward. And he goes, how long have people been doing this?
Yeah, let me just say that Chris
quite
has
some
6
time.
kids.
Yeah, I have 6 kids.
He's got
Woo-hoo!
6 kids.
But yeah, it's awkward, and he hears me stumbling over my words, and I get a little red face. But that communicates something beautiful too. We're on sacred ground.
Okay, so hold on a second. Let me just back up. The little parenthesis. How old is your son?
He's 11 now.
Okay, so
my daughter's 14.
What kinds of things were you telling him before he turned 11 to prep him for the talk?
Yeah, that kind of talk with the kids has to follow the readiness.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
and some kids preserve the age of innocence where they're just not wondering about it. And
Yeah,
perhaps
yeah.
if their school situation isn't forcing them to look at it, I mean, I don't know how long you could go on, but he was
Yeah.
definitely ready
Okay.
and starting to ask questions. And I was going a roundabout way, and eventually he's like, "Dad, just tell me
Oh, good.
where to kill." I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah.
time to tell you.
Yeah,
Here's what
okay.
happens."
Do you think that there's an issue of shame also with either parents or adults and even young people? Because when you're not living up to your
Yeah.
full potential, there's shame that goes there, which I guess leads to the whole reconciliation issue.
Yeah,
So
I
where
mean,
does that all
a lot
fall
of
into?
parents don't realize their own worth. That came from their own dad, maybe,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That our worth isn't summed up by or taken away by our accomplishments or failures, but that we're worth God the Son and God the Father, you know?
Yeah.
And that's something that takes a lot of learning. So you know, we're up against the parents not talking about this. So shame, their own embarrassment. A lot of times they underestimate their power. The National Campaign to Prevent Teen Pregnancy surveyed over 1,000 teens and asked what the overwhelming #1 influence was in their lives when it came to sex. Almost all of them said mom and dad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, and they asked the same parents of these kids, what do you think your kid answered? 34% of them guessed it right.
Yeah, so they're, yeah.
So they don't know how powerful their words are. And I think of, they think the culture is so loud. Okay, a shallow stream is loud. You stand in front of the Mississippi, you don't hear a thing. And that's the voice of mom and dad, right?
Yes.
That's like a mighty current running through the life of a young person. And when it's combined with a message of truth about love, even if you're stuttering, even if you don't really know how to say it, because I'm not a professional chastity speaker, whatever.
Say it anyway.
Say it anyway.
Yeah.
Because the power is unbelievable. And the amount of pain you might spare your kid from. Wow.
Right. Okay, so then to go back to the original question, how do we make the message relevant? You talked about positive, so it's about yes, not about no.
That's right.
Truth and love.
I think the one piece that I wrap it up with as well that we didn't talk about yet is just how it's possible. Because some of
yes.
them think, okay, this is attractive.
But-
I can see how it makes sense, but no way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's no way I can wait till I'm 25 or 30 or
Yeah.
35 or forever. There's
Yeah.
no way. And they constantly hear that message from the world. HPV, for instance, killed more women in North America than AIDS because of cervical cancer.
Yeah.
Jason Everett, great friend of mine, who's listening to this panel of doctors trying to find out why is no one talking about this. And this is back before the vaccine that protects people from 2, but not all the strains that cause cervical cancer. And this person stood up in front of this panel of doctors and said, why don't we tell girls about the disease killing them more than any other?
Yes.
And they said, well, that would start an epidemic of panic, fear, and anxiety among young people who are just starting their sexual careers.
Yes.
Another doctor overtly said that self-control is not an option for young people. So just drop it, because condoms don't do enough.
So the adults don't believe in the young people.
Yeah, and they hear that constantly, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So to tell them that to do what's right is possible, and give them some solid tips on how to do that. Everything from going to confession when you mess up, to being accountable to somebody, to leaving the door open.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole battle is won or lost, really, by where you choose to date.
That's true. That's true.
Great
That's
intentions
true.
mean nothing if you go to college, shut the door, hang out there.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Anyway, Chris, we need to wrap it up, but we're going to conclude as we always do with the word. Leave the last word to the one who is the word.
Amen.
And it's a short verse today from John chapter 10:10. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Would you like to say a few things about that?
Yeah. Whether it's chastity or the faith in general, a lot of people are a little afraid to follow Jesus Christ because they think he's going to take something from me. This is about giving something up and not getting anything back. When we give our lives to God, he gives us life to the full. Being holy, being pure, all this stuff. Being holy isn't going to make us someone else. It's not going to make us weird. We'll meet weird holy people. They were weird before they were holy, right?
Yeah.
It's not. It's going to make us fully us, fully human, fully alive. It gives us life to the full. I still don't even know what the heck life to the full really means, but I know I want that.
Yes, abundantly.
And Jesus is the only way to get it.
Yeah. Well, good. Thank you very much, Chris Stefanick. You can find out more about what he's doing in his talks at reallifecatholic.com. Lots of resources there, and you have a book that's out, so people can find out where to get the book and support your ministry. If you want to bring him to your parish or your school to do a talk, that's what you do for a living. So
That's
we
it.
need
That's
to,
what I do.
we need to support him. Thank you very much.
Hey,
Thank you
thanks
for
so
sharing.
much
Yes.
for having me. It's an honor to
God
be on.
bless.
Thank you.
And remember, you can also check us on our website, saltandlighttv.org/perspectives, and visit us on Facebook. Join the conversation. That's where we post the question of the week. We cannot do this show without your perspective. That's all for tonight. We'll see you next week.